Tune in to the Diva Hot Show.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Today, our guest is Crystal Joseph. She's a licensed therapist, an entrepreneur, and there's one more thing, author, right? Did I read author?
Mhm.
Right.
Huh?
Thank you, Crystal, for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me, Paris. I appreciate the opportunity.
So, tell me a little bit about what inspired you to becoming a licensed therapist, and especially while you was focusing on the Black Lives Matter mental health.
Absolutely. Growing up in the Black community, you would share something with a family member, and then you're headed to somebody's house, grandma, big mama's house, or what have you, and your auntie already knew your business before you got there because somebody done called and told her. So I think for me, no shade to how some of us grew up, but I wanted to provide a safe space for us to really work through some things that we can't always share with family, we can't always share with girlfriends. And I think I was in grad school at the time that the Black Lives Matter movement started
Mhm.
with Trayvon Martin and things like that. So having a hand and foot in social justice is really important to me because, as a Black woman, the person is political. I can't, unzip my skin. So
Right,
yeah.
right. And so, explain to me how did you get approved to be a clinical supervisor, and how it's influenced your practice?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. Nobody asked that question. Okay, so once you get through grad school and your licensure process, which includes what we call residency, like your hour acquisition, a lot of states, but I'll speak for Maryland and Virginia, they require that you be clinically licensed at the highest level for at least 2 years
Okay.
before you can apply to be a supervisor. And then when you apply, you have to take another 20 continuing education hours to submit with that application on, how to supervise other people, how to manage cultural responsibility, how to watch people develop people pretty much. And then they say yay or nay. And then from there, you can start to bring on people such as interns and other residents to supervise.
So is that what caused you to start your own private practice?
It was one of the goals, yes. So I'm from 757, so it's a decent amount of like Black people growing up, like that I saw. But once I started to get into professional spaces, I realized we only make up 4% of
Mm,
the entire professional population. I was like, wait a minute, this ain't gonna work
right.
because we need help, but there's not enough of us to go around for those who only feel comfortable being served by a Black therapist. So, yes, my prominent goal at this point is to train the next generation of therapists so that I can sit down and retire. This work is not easy. So yeah.
And so, so when you touched on something, and I know a friend of mine, he's currently looking for a therapist, and and he was like, I want a Black therapist, and I was like, okay, um, like, but why? Like, to me, I'm just like, why? Have you noticed that a lot? Like, or from your professional opinion, do you feel like Black people does better with Black therapists?
Yeah, and to your point, like to your why and to your friend's point, I have had a white therapist before, couples counseling, marriage counseling. I've had a white therapist, real cool, did what needed to be done. I felt okay, my husband felt okay, we were good. But my current therapist is a Black female, and so I understand your friend's point. Um, what we've noticed in the literature and like qualitative data and just reporting is people feel like the micro and macro aggressions that they experience in the world are repeated by white therapists when they're in the therapeutic forum. And it sucks because it's like, how am I supposed to heal when you're acting and behaving and doing the very same things that these folk out here are doing when I'm on the street?
Right.
And then another issue is not all skin folk are kinfolk, so you have that too, right? So like I'm not the expert on blackness, so my experience, might be different from yours, and it could be off-putting based on, how we vibe in session.
Right.
So you may have to like shop around for a therapist, which is not the best thing either. It's not comfortable, but I'd rather that and you find the good fit and then you stick with that person. So,
Okay. And I was reading in your bio where you do storytelling. Tell me a little bit about how that tool in your therapy session, like it helps and motivate people if you can share your own story too.
yeah, I think it's a big part of our culture growing up. My grandparents would tell me things, and not even like a oh back in my day situation, but like, just tell me things about life. And when it was just, straight talk, straight story, sometimes fluff, sometimes no fluff. It allowed me to really comprehend what they
Uh-huh.
were trying to say. Like, so I never try to come at my clients with, oh, well, dialectical behavioral therapy is the opposing of an opposite. And who wants to hear that? So I'm like, okay, let me tell you a story about how your therapist went through something that may be applicable to your situation. And then it's like, oh, you're human too, you're real, I get it. And I'm not the only one that's experienced this. So I think storytelling is very important and it gets the points across easier. And so if I have to use a Jay-Z lyric to explain something
Okay.
like that's a mental health topic, then I'm gonna do it.
Okay.
Something like that. Yeah.
And so, what challenges have you faced in the mental health field and related to promoting diversity and inclusion?
Ooh, good question. So when I'm not in the office and I'm like public speaking, I get the blank stares.
Okay.
I get the negative reviews on the surveys of like, oh, I'm not so sure that I would invite this person back or, what have you, and not realizing that, you're denying humanity from people, like their basic needs to show up as they are, authentically as they are. And so I think that's frustrating for me because um I have a lot of hair. I used to have my nose pierced. Sometimes my nails are neon green, and that doesn't make me any less professional than the
Mhm.
next person. I bring it every time I show up. Like, you hire me and we gonna get this done. So I think it can be difficult if someone has a closed mind, if someone is biased, if someone um exudes and continues to produce prejudice and racism onto other people, when what I embody and what I bring to the table is going to help and heal other people.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate part, right? Because I feel like when it comes to mental health and therapy, overall, without any just color, like it's always a dance around topic. Then we filter it down to black community, like it's like, oh my, like you're supposed to be perfect. You're not supposed to need counseling, and then like you're saying, then when you are if you're like a therapist, they have this idea or image in their head, like, oh, you're supposed to come with the suit and the glasses, so it's like it's so much I don't know, I would call it ignorance maybe around.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I remember I was in the office one day and my interns was seeing someone and I opened up my door. We all came out the same time to let our clients out, and someone's mother was sitting in the waiting room. And so I think my mother was sick, and so I think I had been running around earlier that day, so I was in sweatpants. And so I came out, I spoke, and then I think when they heard my voice and like saw my face and put two and two together, and it was like, they questioned me. They were like, "Oh, you're the owner." I didn't realize you're the owner. And I was like, "Oh, yes, ma'am, I am, blah, 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 blah." And to your point, it's like, um, I also have to meet people where I am. Like now, if I get hired for a keynote, I'm gonna be decked out, pumps, my wool dress, my pearls, whatever that is. There's a time and a place for everything. But if I got a client who just lost their job or just lost everything or something like that, I'm not going to come tipping in the office,
Right, right.
trying to show off. I think that's irresponsible and I think that's inappropriate. It personally, I speak for how I move, but I just think that's inappropriate.
And I agree, like you saying, meeting people where they at, because in that form, when you meet them where they're at, they're able to open up more. They don't feel like they're being judged. You know what I mean? So I think that's really important.
Yeah, I agree. They feel safer.
Yeah, they do. Can you share a success story from your practice that highlights the positive impact of mental health support in someone's life?
Yes. Oh, it happened um a couple months ago. So I'll try to keep it very broad.
Okay.
So years ago, I had a client who suffered from social anxiety, and we worked through it, and they got through the bulk of how to manage it. I mean, it's going to be present for a lifetime for the most part, but they finally figured out how to manage it. We discharged, everything was fine. Pandemic hits, and I'm strapped for time and space. They hit me back up and they're like, "Hey, can I get back on your couch?" And I'm like, "I'm so sorry, I don't have any space."
Right.
They said, "Okay, appreciate it, keep it moving." A couple months ago, I get an email. They reached back out. They said, "Hey, I just want to check to see if you have any room on your couch. Not for me, but for my partner. I
Oh,
noticed some patterns in them that you taught me that I can't help as their partner, but I think you or someone in the practice will be good to help them." And I cried. I cried. I said, because you don't always see the seeds planted,
right.
and partner shows up for session, and I happened to be at the receptionist desk, like closing out some stuff, and they had finished their session, and they came out and walked past me, and they remembered me because I met them one time in session with the other partner, and they said, "Bye, Crystal," as they
Oh,
walked out. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like the days where I feel like I just want to go under a rock, the days where it gets too hard, like these are the moments that I try to remember.
right,
Yeah.
right. And that's key. Like, like it's almost like with therapy and therapists, like y'all don't get enough accolades. And just for that one person that you healed, now he's healing somebody else, and that's really what we need in this world, when we're able to like help people get better, and showing them love and compassion. So thank you for doing what you're doing.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So what's new? So you working on new master classes or master classes, right?
Mm, you can call it that. Yeah. I appreciate that title. Yeah. I feel like I sometimes my girls get on me. They're like, "You're a little too humble." So I actually got a request from a current intern that some of her grad school classmates are struggling, and she has shown them materials that I have given, to onboard and orient them to the practice. And she's like, "You really should consider doing a training for us, grad school students in 2024." And I said, "Oh, bet, I got you." So I have done trainings in the past 6 or 7 years, but they've typically only been geared to peers at my level.
Okay.
And I have a heart for the grad students because I know how difficult it is in grad school. But I think I was I had blinders on. I was only looking at like, oh, well, if you're in my internship program, you're good. Not thinking about people outside of that. So I'm gonna expand a little bit, and in 2024, I hope to host one of the first like curriculums and trainings for grad students, to your point, so they can get acclimated to what this world looks like before they get there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's really important. Even like what I realized, like, so I'm a fashion designer as well as do
Mhm.
podcasts, and I have so many kids that went to school for like fashion, but they never showed me how to start a business. like how to start
Okay.
a fashion business. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
what you're doing is really key because you can have all the knowledge, but the experience is what they're not teaching in class.
Yeah. Oh, you hit the nail on the head. That's all I'm hearing. And that's why I wrote the books. They're small, they're not like Michelle Obama's, her memoir or anything like that. But they've been helpful and they're used in grad programs, they're in grad school libraries. People are asking me, are you gonna write a third one? Like, I'm not quite there yet. I don't know. But they're like, "Yeah, I needed this because I really wanna do private practice. I really wanna help people like you do, but grad school is straight up like research."
Right, right, right,
Mhm. And they're not I mean, you can do research in private practice, but they're like, "I don't really wanna just do research. I wanna
right,
practice."
right, right. Well, if people wanted to get in contact you, what's the best way?
Yeah, so the best way, I'm on Instagram as the real underscore psych your mind, PSYCYOURMIND. Website is psychyourmind.com. Same thing, no H on psych, please. And hit us up. We have contact forms. I'm active. I try to be consistent and active on social media when I'm not in session to build a community, to be transparent. And then poundcakeandprivatepractice.com is where you can find those books that I just talked about.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Crystal. Again, I give you condolence, accolades, flowers, because what you're doing, even every day when you wake up and you decide, even just starting a business and deciding to help one person, you changing the world just by helping that one person. So, thank you for that.
Thank you so much. And I'm gonna check out your fashions. I like fashion.
Oh yeah, you definitely, definitely, definitely. We're going through a little something right now, but definitely
Okay.
get online. But yeah,
Okay. All right. Well, enjoy.
thank you. All right. Anytime you want to come back, just always hit us up and we're here for you.
All right. Will do.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Me get your more info. Think to my head to toe. I let the whole world know. I let the whole world know. Divas forget the dough. The hustle, the hustle, the hustle, the hustle.